Well, this is how I taper the tangs of my knife. First thing I do, I use an indelible marker and I ink up the back of the knife. I've tapered about 15 knives or so to date, so it's becoming a lot easier for me now. Use a set of calipers and measure the thickness of the knife, and then do a bit of simple maths to work out how thick I want the tang to be, and then I set the calipers to that width and then scribe a couple of lines. There you should be able to see the two parallel lines. Next I grind down at a 45-degree angle approximately to those two lines either side. And what that does, that gives me a visual indicator later on. It's important to be very careful and just go steady and watch what you're doing. If you grind off too much steel, you're basically scrapping your knife. So go steady and just keep an eye on it and watch how it grinds. You don't want to grind too much off. You can't put it back on again. So there you can see I've ground my two angles down to the scribe lines. Next operation, I'm using the wheel and I'm forming a channel through the length of the handle. The more steel you remove at this point, the easier the next processes become. I grind all my knives with ungloved hands, so as soon as I feel it getting hot, dip it into the water, keep it cool. At this stage the knife has been heat treated. There's absolutely no way that knife's going to get anywhere near hot enough to affect the temper, and anyway we're well away from the cutting edge. Good steady hands and eyes are important for this operation. Again, one slip and your knife's scrapped. At this stage, a fair amount of work's gone into that knife. There you can see that I've removed a fair bit of steel, hollowed out a lot of the knife's handle. That gives me two flat surfaces, one side and one the other, which helps when you actually present the knife to the platen. It acts as two rails basically and keeps the knife fairly flat. I'm just marking where the handles are going to come, and then I go slightly beyond that, about 5mm, and I will taper that whole area up to the furthest line. Just inking that up so I can see where the steel's been removed. Next I use a powerful magnet, a welder's magnet, and presenting the knife at an angle, applying pressure with my lower hand. And you see the steel being removed, and you can see the hollow grind disappearing. Using a fair amount of pressure and a 36 grit belt. You see now that the grind is beginning to creep up the handle. regularly apply fresh ink so I can see where the grind's going. The aim is to get the bottom of the grind line down to the marker and the top at the same time. I use the whole of the platen, I don't just hold the knife still on the platen. That way you're averaging out any errors in the platen. I'd like it to be grinding slightly to one side, so what I'll do, I'll move the magnet over to that side and apply gentle pressure to that side a little bit, and you can kind of steer the grind a little bit. And I just indicated then that I'm applying pressure centrally. Just moving the knife over the whole face of the platen. Always, just go steady and always apply a bit more ink if you're not sure where the grind's going, so you can see what's happening. Just a bit more to take off from the bottom edge there. But of course you've got to take it all off flat. That whole surface has to be flat. So just keep grinding away, keeping the knife's handle tang flat on the platen. I've ground out most of the hollow grind's mostly gone now. Compare it to the other side. So we're more or less halfway there. Don't need to rush, just take your time. And time to go on to the other side. And just to repeat the process really, starting off at a fairly acute angle, applying pressure with the lower hand, and then as the grind moves up, it's indicated then that I'm applying pressure lower down. Eventually what happens, you form a flat surface, and that flat surface acts as its own guide to a degree. And it's just a matter of just gently easing the pressure upwards and applying pressure more centrally now. And again, keep using the whole face of the platen. Just applying some more ink so I can see exactly where the steel is being removed. So no one's taught me this, I've learnt this through practice and experience and watching others on YouTube really. But a tapered tang does look elegant, you know, it just displays a bit more of the knife maker's craft. And you can see the hollow grind beginning to disappear. And you can see now that I'm applying a bit more pressure, slightly higher up. You can kind of, I call it steering the grind, and the same applies to the bevel when you're grinding the Scandi bevels, or any bevel for that, I guess. Really, you can kind of steer it. Also, I'll position the magnet slightly off centre if I feel that one side needs a bit more grinding than another. It's very subtle, you know, just a little bit of extra pressure here or a little bit less pressure there, and it just comes with practice. It's actually critical to get the whole of that tang flat. There's no shortcuts. It's either there or it isn't. And, you know, I've learned that if it's not quite there, you think, oh, that'll be okay. It won't be okay. You've got to get it flat all the way where the scales are going to fit. They must be flat. So at this stage, I've finished the coarse grits, and I'm just checking for flatness. It's got to be flat over the entire surface where the scales are going to fit. If it isn't, the scales will have a slight gap underneath. So as I say, it's either there or it isn't, and in this case it's there. So I'm happy with that. So I'll swap the belts, going on to a finer belt now, and removing the scratches from the coarser belt and basically blending it in. You can see the platen is hot, the machine's hot, I'm hot. It's about an hour, just over an hour's work, hour and a quarter's work. The machine works hard. I work hard. I charge £25 to taper a tang on a knife, and I think it's worth, I think I've earned every penny of that. It's taken me about 12 to 14 hours to build a knife, including its sheath at the moment. And this is just one of the many processes that I actually have to go through. So that's basically the tang now tapered. You see I've gone down to a very nice 1.5mm tang at the far end, thickness from 4mm by the blade. A nice equal even taper both sides. It was kept nice and cool, no chance of it warping. So that's a nicely tapered tang. There's one other thing I do now. I put the wheel back on again and just create a very shallow hollow grind in the handle area. And the purpose for that is that when I come to glue the scales on, there's somewhere for any excess glue to go into, and it just forms a much more solid bond to the handle. And together with dimpling the scales, I think it gives you a very good secure handle. Well, that's it for this video. I hope it's been a help to somebody. As I say, this is how I do it. There may be other ways to do it, maybe better ways even. So if you can find a better way, well, good luck to you. This is how I do it. Hope you've enjoyed watching this.